So, hello everybody and welcome. I am your host, Nikki Cabus, the CEO of South Florida Tech Hub, and we have a awesome guest today, Richard Lavina. He is the CEO and co-founder of a consumer-based and enterprise SaaS accounting tech company called Taxfyle. Prior to founding Taxfyle in 2015, Richard worked for PricewaterhouseCoopers as an auditor. While working at PwC, he obtained his master's of accounting and was inspired to start Taxfyle, having witnessed firsthand and learned about the systematic inefficiencies of the accounting industry. Since then, Ricky and his team has transformed Taxfyle from an idea to a venture-backed company that serves tens of thousands of taxpayers each year, hundreds of CPA firms around the country, and counts as a big four accounting firm and international accounting corporations among its enterprise clientele. So thank you, Richard or Ricky, for joining us. To start out with, do you want to just introduce yourself and tell us just a little bit about you in general?
I think you did a good job, but
I got the synopsis there.
Yeah. My name's Ricky Lavina. I'm Miami made, born and raised here.
Ooh.
Went to the University of Miami. I'm Belen Jesuit before then. So Miami's definitely my home through and through. A native here.
So you're one of the
and really
few
excited.
South Florida natives then?
Yeah. And I was gonna say really proud and to be working on such a special project here at Taxfyle and taking, let's say, the tech industry down here to another level, and hopefully with it bringing a little bit more jobs and tech capital to the region.
Yes, yeah, perfect. And I know we'll get into it a little bit in the conversation, but I'm really happy to find out you guys are working with Fuel Ventures. So I want to talk about that a little bit too. But just starting out the conversation here, tell us a little bit about you being born and raised Floridian. I am myself as well. I know there's not many of us. When I tell people that, they think it's funny that I'm a native, but because there's so many people that, that kind of come here from all
Sure.
over the country and Latin America. But
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about that. Like, where in Miami were you born? Tell us a little bit about the schools you went to.
Yeah, so I was born in Coral Gables. That's my first home.
Really nice area.
Yeah, it's pretty different in 1986, though. I think the house back then was like $40,000 or something like that, and then
I bet.
like God knows where it's at right now. But born down here, went to Belen Jesuit. It's an all-guy prep school right off 8th Street. It's a school that came over from Cuba, and it had a profound impact on my life. Actually, my business partner, Mike Maurice, who's our CEO, in-house counsel, is from there as well. That's where I met him in 7th grade. So they have like a 6 through 12 program, and still involved with the school. Loved all the life lessons I got from there, and then when it came down to deciding career paths and where I wanted to end up. My father's a banker, which is the opposite end of, let's say, the risk appetite spectrum, and was always kind of conflicted. I had an entrepreneurial spirit in me, but at the same time, really valued, starting a family and having a, let's say, sustained career and kind of opportunity to provide for them, right? So it's always conflicted. I I think I ended up at the time thinking that I was start off too conservative in accounting. I didn't even do like investment banking or anything. I did accounting like the most conservative, and then I don't know if the pendulum just swings hard after doing almost a decade in public accounting.
But that makes complete sense. I mean, that like what kind of where your brain went and why you did what you did. I mean, just having Cuban immigrant parents, and that's often a community of people that I think just Latin America in general, that is very entrepreneurial spirit, especially when coming to the US, and then having that accounting background with your dad. I mean, it makes complete sense.
Yeah, because you hear all the stories. Yeah, I worked at a shoe shop, and then at night, and then during the day, we clean dishes, or and the whole evolution of that into while taking night classes and becoming you hear all the stories. Become an engineer, a lawyer, a banker, right? And I think that spirit is in my DNA. So it took a while for it to be unleashed, I guess, but but it definitely manifested itself in Taxfyle about 6 years ago.
Nice. Yeah. I have very similar stories from my dad's side. He's from Colombia and very similar. You said, dishes and all of that through school. That was literally his story. Dishes at the hospital and going through high school and college. So
Yeah, it builds a tremendous amount of character, and
it
and not
does.
just that. Your appetite for hardship, your let's say tolerance for hardship, right? It's increased, right? The reason why I feel like my parents are, foundational, and I'm sure a lot of other, parents down here or kids, feel the same way about their parents is because they've gone through a lot, right?
Right.
And a bump in the road is simply not just a bump in the road, but the road continues on, right? So, these are definitely, values instilled on me that haven't been lost, and I don't think if it was for them, I would have had the, let's say, the resolve and the confidence and the will to get through, the highs and lows of a startup.
It's a really good way to say it. It gave you some extra grit that you needed to start the company and get through some of those bumps in the early years. So
For
tell
sure.
me a little bit about, before you started Taxfile, like what did you see when you were working with PwC that made you want to start, Taxfile as your own business?
Yeah, you know, it's a weird science coming up with the equation for a successful startup, right? Because a lot of people could say what's going to be a valued product in the future, right? And the
Mhm.
trick is getting it at the right time, right? If you're too early to something, like the Betamax VHS tape type debate, right? One being better than the other, but losing out to the market to VHS because VHS had better timing and better pricing. Um, it's not just about who has the best ideas, right? But when the market is able and willing to kind of absorb that idea and for that to manifest
100%
itself
agree.
into revenue, right? And clients that stay on, right? So, you know, no matter how novel the idea is, you almost have to generate some type of value, product value, in even in the earliest stages, like conceptual stages, right? So the way that Tesla did that was with the Roadster, right? So you have this concept of this in the industry, in the car industry, of prototype cars, and a prototype car gets to show the world of what you're building towards, right? It manifests itself on the track, right? So it's tangible. You could drive it. You could show people how the technology works, right? And with additional, investment that have proved, right? Prototyping is easy industry. Taking it to scale and to production is hard, right? But you have to first prove it out via a prototype. So even in some of the most futuristic type concepts,
Mhm.
you still have to prove value, right? And prove that to your investors, right? So back then, 2000, like sort of 14, 2015, I guess Uber was just becoming popular, right? In this whole like on
Mhm.
demand kind of gig economy. And I was looking at different. Now you have a ton of different type of gig economy platforms, some successful, some not. But when you look at the core competencies of what it makes one of these kind of one way marketplace work, right? Because Uber sets your
Right.
price, and you connect to marketplace on the other end, similar to Taxfyle, right? Where we set the price, and then your 10,000 tax returns, your 15,000 tax returns, whatever you're outsourcing to us gets routed to to pros. Um, you start figuring out, okay, is this going to go like the wayside of the dog walking app for
Right.
like Uber for dog walking, or does this Uber for model really have legs because the underlining kind of like dynamics of the user experience and the value that it drives um, is suitable for a gig economy to service the platform. Okay,
Mhm.
and quickly when you go through that, you say, okay, taxes and accounting is definitely one that could be served here because you don't really have. You could hedge against the risk of quality because you could bring on CPAs and EAs, which are highly qualified professional licensed workers
Mhm.
that are fairly easy to vet in terms of like the work that they're going to be doing, which are 1040s and things like that. So that you're going to have a high degree of confidence in your product. Okay. dog walking less so, who's walking our dog, or how do you protect against that person stealing the dog, or what's the recourse there, and what's so you see the parallels I'm starting to draw here, right?
Yeah.
So you start going down the checklist, and basically what I said, thought to myself was, if I don't do this, someone else is going to do it. Doing taxes, especially if you hold a license like an IRS enrolled agent license or a CPA license, is pretty run of the mill in terms of your daily tasks and what you're trained on. So, you know, there's a ton of them out there. I'm sure all of them want to make extra side money because, working in a public accounting firm isn't necessarily the, let's say how do I put this kindly? Like the most stress-free job that there is out there.
Not
It
the
takes a
most
lot of political
glamorous.
capital, glamorous too, right? The incentive structure essentially is that you either make a partner in the long term or you get a paycheck, or it's just a paycheck, right? So
Mhm.
if we're talking just a paycheck, how many of those people, the 600,000 CPAs, are there out there? And there's a lot. And we feel that doing it through our platform is a lot more exciting, gives you a lot more better work-life balance, working from home or from anywhere. That you know, and also, if you only want to work the 6 months, which is essentially tax season, the 4 months now, and then extension season, you could. So then you could take the rest of the year off, right? So I felt that the value prop measured up a lot better if you use an Uber platform to deliver tax services, and
Yeah.
and, and that was the inception for the whole thing.
Yeah, and I think also is that, when it comes to anything in accounting and finance, taxes, all of that, I mean, what's that saying? 2 things are guaranteed, death and taxes. It's like, you're gonna have to do it. But I think a lot of people, that's an area that they don't know enough about, they don't have enough confidence with, and especially if they're, you know, newer companies that are starting, that's an area that they're just not familiar with and maybe don't have the same resources. So I think for something like this, I think it gives, people a little bit more confidence to be able to kinda have a little bit of a little bit of say in what happens and, with their taxes, but doing it through, a platform like yours gives them more resources. So
Yeah, and that's not our only client either, right? So we do two things. We work we almost work like Amazon. So if you're an
Mhm.
individual, right, Nick, I'm sure you use Amazon.
Yeah.
You have Amazon Prime. You deliver
Mhm.
groceries, and you get your dog food or whatever right through Amazon, right? Um, but also Amazon services businesses, right?
Oh, right,
So
the
you could
service side
you
of
could
it.
buy like right. So we work almost as an Amazon fulfillment center, right? Whether you're one
Mhm.
individual needing one 1040, or you're a CPA firm that has 1,000 tax returns because the staffing market's really tough right now. They outsource it to us and we fulfill it. So we're like an Amazon fulfillment center for tax returns for individuals and businesses, right? It's very much akin to kind of like what Wayne Huizinga did down here. This is the South
Mhm.
Florida podcast, right? So he did waste management, right?
Mhm.
The even within accounting firms, the tax work is like you said, not the most glamorous, and the people that run the firm and the people that send the work over feel the same. So what we built here is a more efficient way to get that work done, right? Because the firm doesn't really want to be doing taxes either. The tax work is just a byproduct of having you, Nikki, as a client of that firm. They want to
Right.
get your audit, they want to do your bookkeeping, they want to do your advisory job, right? They want to do like the stuff that they make more money on per hour, and they can better serve you, and that you feel drives more value, right? A tax return's a commodity, right? Picking up the trash, it's a commodity service as well,
Right.
right? So we have to build this platform to serve essentially what is a commoditizable product, which is doing a tax return. So that's the way we can approach the whole thing.
Awesome. Yeah, so tell us a little bit. I mean, I know, for myself, in working a little bit with Fuel Venture, I know a little bit about them, but tell me, the big news, what's been going on? Tell our listeners, what you guys have been working on recently.
Yeah, so we just announced that we closed our B round. It's a $20 million raise. So I think that's a nice size for South Florida.
Yes, yeah,
Um, you know,
congratulations.
Thank you. We're not one of these startups that raises a ton of money, sells a lot of shares, operates heavily in the red, like like I said,
Right.
I came from a kind of risk averse kind of background, right? So we like to build the substance first, and then kind of get the acclaim and everything after the engine's kind of running. But we are venture backed. We do have a high yield, high growth company, and with that comes the need for an injection of capital. So
Mhm.
we couldn't be prouder with our partners at Fuel and IDC that put together this round, and with this, we're looking to hire 100 more people. I think of the 100 that we're hiring, we've already hired like about 37.
That's awesome.
So bringing more tech jobs down here to South Florida.
Yeah, that's huge. That was actually gonna be my next question for you was, what was gonna be one of the major things that you use with the money and the funding that you just received? And I think you just answered that question, but I think, you know, the 2 things that we hear about all the time when it comes to South Florida is, for startups especially, is funding and talent. So, obviously, you've gotten some funding now, you're trying to find the talent. Are you running into issues with finding talent, or are you doing pretty well with that? And also is, I guess, follow-up to that question is what type of talent are you looking for?
Um, so the staffing market's tough right now. So it seems like across whether you're looking for people or just looking for widgets, supply and
Mhm.
demand curves are completely out of whack, and supply chains are terrible right now. But hopefully that gets better in the near term. It's there's pros and cons. Being in South Florida, you're fishing in a smaller pool. If you need someone here to be on site.
Mhm.
But like for example, the head of our designs in Africa, we have, and she's a director. We just promoted her to director, and she's been with us for years now.
Okay.
We take each hiring position as its own little, let's say, unique challenge. So
Mhm.
with that comes different types of requirements, and some of them don't require the people to be here, at HQ. Yeah, the majority of our employees are here at HQ, but for example, the sales team that is, let's say, the largest from a growth perspective in terms of headcount department that we're hiring for right now, that's completely distributed, right? Like,
Right.
we're bringing.
Yeah, sure. So Ricky, I was just asking about the talent and if you're opening up any of those positions to interns, entry level, if you've been working with any of the local like higher education institutions or boot camps at all?
Um, so I actually haven't been working with the boot camp, so would love to start that back up. I know we worked with Lane Code a few years ago, but we're taking interns across all departments, including even customer success. Um, I'm on the board of the accounting school at FIU.
Oh, awesome.
So even if you're an accountant and you're looking for a job other than public accounting and want to stay in the same space, you could come work at a tech company, high growth startup. That's probably a little bit more fun as well, with some different challenging different challenges and problems to solve. So for sure, we have
That's really good to hear.
an
Yeah,
intern
because I know
program
a lot
across the
of
board.
larger companies start apprenticeship programs or internship programs, but kind of way late in the game. So it's good to hear that you're still a very young company and doing that already.
Actually, some of our best employees started as interns, right? These are people that interned with us 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago that are still with the company, that have accrued some stock and are now some of our managers.
That's wonderful. Yeah, that's really good. And tell me again, what's the number that you guys are at as far as staff?
I think right now we're at 80.
That's good. That's really good number. Yeah. And tell me, so I know you've been born and raised in South Florida in Miami. What do you think about all of the craziness right now in Miami and everything going on, in the Miami tech and innovation scene? Like, how are you viewing that as a new, like younger company?
It's good. I mean, in my position, I want to network with as many people as possible, right? Um, you know, we need we need more of let's say growth type capital down here, right? It's good for
Hmm.
seed and A, and business is still done via relationships. I
Right.
know that we're talking via Zoom right now, or this studio stream app, but um, you know, I've pitched to Andreessen Horowitz, Sequoia, to all the big guys out there, Google Ventures, right? And when you go out to Palo, there's a reason why, there's such a high concentration of the startups where the capital is because life still operates via relationships.
Hmm.
And the stronger a relationship is, the more trust that you have, between both parties. And that's the underpinning of all transactions is trust, right? So the more that you trust someone, usually the more you're going to trust the projections, and the more you trust their product and their vision, and that makes raising money and hiring a lot easier. So
Exactly.
it kind of just benefits us. Yeah, COVID's kind of slowed it down. I think that a little bit of the cart in front of the horse type thing. Where some big names are coming down here, but really they're just sending a person or two, and then they have like niche projects, and not really casting a wide net. That's fine, I guess. The I think what's going to happen is that it's going to have to take a couple big IPOs, similar to like what happened in Austin with Dell, right?
Hmm.
Austin became what it was because of Dell, and once you have a ton of angels and a ton of investment shops make thousands of X on their investment, it's hard going back. It's hard going back to like just making a few percent a year via traditional kind of
Exactly.
investment products, right? So, and then it becomes a lifestyle, right? Because they know Michael Dell and they saw what he built, and you could see the people that were employed there, and you want to do something similar, and
Hmm.
it's this whole kind of effect, and I think that's what's going to happen down here. It's going to take some legitimate companies to have legitimate IPOs and have legitimate staff and legitimate return, uh, to their early investors.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I know people have probably heard me say this a million times, but it's something where, South Florida, fortunately and unfortunately, I mean, fortunately, we've been for the last decade and a half, last 2 decades, always listed on multiple indexes, including the Kaufman Index for one of the top places in the country, if not the top place in the country for startup and entrepreneurship activity. So it's like none of that is new to South Floridians, but at the same time, we've always had that huge gap of funding and growth and being able to expand. And that being, to your point, a culture here in South Florida. And I feel like for the first time, especially with all the activity, now around Mayor Suarez and Miami, is that we're starting to get that visibility from across the country, and we are starting to attract, some more funders and people that are supporting the startups. So I'm very hopeful that what you're describing there is what's going to be our future and where we're going towards. I'm hoping that is kind of what we see over the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, it's just like architecting and taking to market a product. You need a feedback loop, right? So
Mhm.
so let's say the loop starts with an idea, and that idea gets requires money and gets money, and then it grows and then it builds, right? The end of the loop, right, is kind of liquidity event, right? So yeah, money coming over and laying out, let's say they're an initial investment's good, but it has to compound, right? Because people are going to put their money, where they think it's going to, generate ROI. And
Right,
Miami needs to do that. Like, you
right.
can't really cheat success. It's great that we have the marketing. It's great that we have the momentum. That definitely helps, right? But then, where the rubber meets the road is, these companies need to be successful, and
Mhm.
only through that success do you have the capacity to hire more people, so to attract more jobs, and then to return more back to your investors, that then would hopefully do the same with other companies that then return and do the same thing.
Yeah, agreed, 100%, 100%. So I want to change the conversation a little bit to talk about personal life. So we've talked a lot about Taxfyle and your recent funding, and which again, congratulations, because that's huge. But tell me a little bit more about, what are some hobbies that you have, or what things do you do when you're not working on Taxfyle? I'm sure you probably, like many startup founders, that's all you think about right now. But but what are some things that you do
Yeah,
for
that and my
fun?
yeah, my kids. So when I started the company, I had no kids, and now I have three, and
Oh
it's
my
four, two,
gosh.
and one. So I have a
Well, you've
pretty
been
crazy
busy. If
house.
you started 2015 and now you've got 3.
Yeah, yeah. It's like my wife is like, "Wow, this is like the first year I've gone without being pregnant in a while." So,
Oh my
God
god.
bless her. She has her hands full at the house, and but it's great. We're as you got from the beginning of the conversation, I'm a family guy through and through. But it's pretty crazy how life changes. Like at PwC, I could play a few rounds of golf a year, which I love golf. And growing up, my parents had a boat and things like that. And but there's only 24 hours in a day, so with a 4, 2, and 1 year old,
Oh my
and
God, 4, 2,
Taxfyle, I've
and
got my
1.
hands full. But I love fishing. I love diving. Love traveling. I think that anytime that we do get to ourselves, me and my wife Vanessa, we love to spend it either at a good restaurant, or hopefully we find a sitter for a prolonged period of time, on a nice vacation.
Well, I
So
see, I only have 2, and I remember when I had, one was a newborn and one was an infant. My sisters went from, "Oh, yeah, sure, I'll babysit one," and then when I had the second one, they're like, "Do I have to take both?" And I'm like, "Yes, that comes with the territory now. You gotta take both when you babysit."
yeah, if you're trying to get to Lisbon, it doesn't make much good if you only have babysitting for two of them. It's like, where's the other one going to come with us, or should we just leave that one at home? So and it definitely gets harder, right? So the amount of people out there that you trust with, in my case, three, or that have the patience to to babysit
Yeah,
three is a
exactly.
smaller pool of people, I think.
Well, being a parent, I think will help you, be a better leader too. At least that's something for me is, having patience with them and then just being able to explain things and working with different personalities and, yeah, I think being a parent has helped my leadership skills a lot for sure.
I think so. I'm a big proponent that iron sharpens iron, right? So, similar to all the hardships that, our parents have went through and things like that, and providing, I feel like if you're challenging yourself constantly daily with different tasks, and parenting is definitely a challenge, right? You're just going to, add more tools to your toolbox,
Exactly.
and each tool is different, right? Sometimes you need a screwdriver, sometimes you need a hammer, right? So sometimes you need patience, sometimes you need assertiveness. And I think the capacity for patience definitely increases when you have kids.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Nobody will argue on that one. So you were talking about, water sports and you mentioned restaurants. So if you were to throw out right now, what is your favorite restaurant in Miami?
Oh, my favorite restaurant.
It's probably
I
so
love
many,
Zapata
but
de Mata here in Coconut Grove. I'm a big Grove guy here, so we've been here for a few years. We're I guess going to a bigger spot, and we want to keep it here in Coconut Grove. So I love Zapata de Mata right down the street.
nice.
Pasta
I
made in
haven't
the
been there yet. I'll have to
house.
look that one up now.
Oh yeah, it's great. If you're familiar with the Miami Beach scene, it's kind of like a Macalina vibe.
Okay.
So it's homemade pasta. It's great in terms of
Mm,
the fresh ingredients they use. The seafood's great as well. Really high quality Italian.
that's good. You caught my eye with seafood because, yeah, anytime I can get seafood, I'm happy. And that's the one good thing about being South Floridian. You can find a seafood restaurant, a really
Although,
good one on almost every corner.
although let me look it up. I went to a French. So I did the whole Van Gogh thing, that they're having in
Oh,
downtown.
yeah, yeah.
It was awesome. It was awesome. If they do a Monet one, definitely go to that one. I don't know how much longer they're gonna have the Van Gogh one up, but before
I
that, my
think that
wife
one's
and I
almost
went to
done.
a French restaurant in Brickell. That was like the best French that I've had in Miami. What's it called? It's right in front of the Jade. So if you're standing outside the Jade and you're looking right at it, it was excellent.
Huh.
Um, let's see here. I'll come back to it.
Yeah, I'm like,
LPM. There it is.
we're
LPM.
gonna have to when we put out the
LPM.
podcast, we're gonna have to put links to these places too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. LPM. LPM. That place is great.
LPN,
They
okay.
yeah, LPM. It's
Okay.
phenomenal. By far the best French down here.
That's awesome. So, couple more things. So tell us, right now, are you a morning person or a night person?
Yeah, morning, 100%.
I'm so jealous of you. So I've tried to be a
Yeah.
morning person so many times, and every time I hear people say it, because I just can't do it. I'm such a night owl. Were you always been a morning person, or you had to kind of get readjusted to that?
Um, I mean, I don't think any teenager, or 20-year-old is a morning person, right? So I think you go through phases. But I think my personality trait kind of is predisposed to morning.
Yeah.
If I wake up refresh, it's when I'm waking up like at 7:10. That's late for me if I wake up like at 7:10.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm forced to get up that early, but only because I have to take the kids to school. That's my
Yeah,
excuse.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, early will be around 5. You know, par for the course, 5:45.
Yeah, you're like my husband, likes his sports and his golf. He likes fishing. Yeah.
Yeah, get them in early while everyone's sleeping, and it's like it didn't happen. So,
Yeah, exactly. He'll wake up Saturday morning, it's like 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm still sleeping. He's like, "Where are you going?" He's like, "I'm going fishing. Just go back to bed."
yeah, exactly. You see,
Yeah,
I'm back to do whatever's on my laundry list today.
well, I'm always happy because then I get fresh ceviche when he comes home, so I'm
Oh,
happy.
hey, you
Yeah.
benefit from it. Yeah, when he goes play golf, not so much, right?
I know, I don't get anything when he comes back from that.
Yeah, just some expenses on the Amex. That's about it.
Exactly. So tell me, are you a podcast person or a book person?
Um, It's a
Or
good
neither?
question. Right now, no, I'm addicted to podcasts and audiobooks. Right
Audiobooks,
now,
yeah.
yeah, like I love reading, but I haven't been traveling much, as I mentioned. So I love my um, you know, uh, Paperwhite Kindle. I still have it in my book bag. I use every day, but I'm in the car. I'm listening to an audiobook. I use a Whisper app, I'm sorry, I think it's called Sync or either Whisper. That it
Mhm.
connects essentially where your Audible, if you use Audible, is with your Kindle. So if
Oh,
you
I
have
see.
a book that's read out, it picks up on the page, what that was like dictated to you, and so you could devour books that way.
I'm
Love
sure, yeah,
that.
especially if you travel a lot, yeah.
Yeah, and then I mean, I have so many podcasts. That's like it's not even funny. I mean, I can't even get through all my subscriptions.
Yeah.
In terms of like their because I'm subscribed to so many different channels. So
So right
yeah,
now, what's
I don't
your
really watch
favorite,
TV.
like, podcast or favorite book? Like, what are you reading or listening to right now?
Um, a lot. How about I just tell you? Let me see. I'll pull up the books. I have a lot going on. So we got. I go through like different phases, right? So um, I went through like a C.S. Lewis, J.R. Tolkien phase, over the past 2 months. So just dive into all their work, especially the new Lord of the Rings coming out in on Amazon.
Yeah,
So a little of a nerd like that. That's like my favorite author. So picked up a bunch of their stuff. Everything from like mere Christianity to like the Chronicles of Narnia, right? So they have a wide
you
range.
do, you have
That's
quite an
that's on
eclectic
the book.
mix in there.
I do to like Team of Rivals, which is a biography on Lincoln. So or Tony Dungy's book if you want something with sports. It's called Uncommon. That's my mind's always scattered, so it depends on like the appetite of the day. So
Yeah,
I'm
I
a
just
book
learned a
prince for
lot
that.
about you just from your podcast list right there.
I know. It's like it's all over the place, but I like the classics. Usually nonfiction, as you could get a taste,
Mhm,
but
yeah.
also fiction, right? Because Chronicles of Narnia and right, Lord of the Rings is definitely fiction, right? Um, but with meta
I'm learning
stories, I
to love it,
guess.
but my husband and my son are all into, Star Wars, that's theirs.
They love Star Wars. Yeah, my kids love Star Wars. I love Star Wars. I don't know when we're going to Disney. We're going to Disney for one of the kids' birthdays. I don't know which one, but definitely Disney Star Wars land
Oh,
is
yeah.
on the list.
Oh, yeah, we were actually, just at Universal this past weekend, and I heard it over and over because we went to Universal instead of Disney, and my son wanted to see the Star Wars, so he was pissed at me, but
That's awesome.
yeah. So, I know, to wrap this up, I wanted to ask you because obviously, I know that you've been very successful, very busy. You've had a lot of growth over the last few years, and again, congratulations for all of that success because you've gotten a lot of it in a short time, and especially through a pandemic. And what advice would you give to another startup founder, somebody that is trying to start their own business and maybe feeling a little flustered through that process and some of the road bumps you were talking about earlier? What advice would you give them?
I mean, there's no advice I could give that isn't already out there. Like there's nothing unique about my experience. To be honest, it's kind of like what Steve Jobs said in his Stanford commencement address, which was, you only can connect the dots looking backwards. You can't connect the dots looking forward, right? So
Mhm.
who knows if the hardship you're going through right now in the startup process is one that's going to lead to essentially the demise of the company, or one that's just going to be a great chapter in the book, right? You are going to go through those, if you're serious about having a startup, whether it's Elon Musk at Tesla, or, little less here at Taxfyle, you're going to be up against burn down. You got to figure out
Yeah.
how to make payroll a few times. You're going to have, the cold sweats and waking up at night, saying, wow, I did everything right and this thing still isn't working now. And why? And how do I, talk to my investors about that? And what happens if I lose their money? And, what does that mean for me? And can I go back to my, the devil
Yeah.
plays tricks like that. And, it takes a lot of resolve to kind of go through it, and sometimes it does end up with closing up shop, right, or an exit earlier, hopefully, in the better scenario of the two, to
Mhm.
an exit, but earlier than you anticipated, right? um so you just take it as you take life. Life's a call to adventure, and startup is definitely an adventure, and there's a lot of learnings from it, and the more honest you are with yourself in terms of, are you really driving product market fit and value to a customer base, and is it actually generating substantive type of
Right.
return, whether you're pre-revenue or you're post-revenue, right? Is there like some return here that we could build upon? And if I'm pre-revenue, can I parlay that into a raise? And if
Mhm.
I have revenue, do I need a raise, or do I need to look to go profitable? Not, you know, just because you're making a business that makes money and that's profitable doesn't mean that you're not a successful startup. You could definitely take that approach as well. So, don't get fixed on it has to be this way, because, or that pivoting is bad, or
Right.
um,
Right.
whatever. You have to be agile. And to be honest, that's the reason why your idea has any validity in any type of potential future, because of the agility. The reason why I could be competitive in the accounting world is because we're more agile than, a
Mhm.
TurboTax or like a Deloitte or an Ernst and Young, that make a lot more money than we do, right? But when we see that the market is needing additional feature or new product or something, we could be faster to market with it, and better, and run through feedback loops, quicker, and get something, um, of substance out there, quicker, and better, without having to go through all the bureaucracy, right? So,
Exactly.
whether you're doing a cooking app, right? I mean, you're not the first person to deliver food, or or to cook food, right? You're just doing it in a slightly different way that the market needs, right? And you're
Right.
doing that faster, right? So you have to be agile, you have to pivot.
Yeah.
Those are good things. If you're not encountering that, what I'll say is that, well, there's additional risk in your business model that that I'm that you haven't yet seen yet, because that's going to come, right? So, usually the most successful
Mhm.
CEOs that I talk to, whether they're in the Valley, or they're in South America, or in Europe, or here, they've gone through it.
Yeah. Well, and I think, a lot of what you were just saying is, and I know you kinda started out by saying you didn't have any great advice, but you did. You just had a bunch of great advice. And I think, what you were saying is a lot of that goes back to, it's not only just the product or service that you're offering, but you had mentioned a couple times is the right timing. And, going back to that, I think what we were originally talking about in the beginning of the discussion was that grit. And I think a lot of that with startup companies especially is, it's not so much about the product or service. It's a lot of times it's about the founder, and it's about who's the leader of the company and kind of their mindset and how they're running that company. And just from talking to you, I mean, I could tell you're a very well-rounded gentleman, very smart. I mean, you're obviously doing things the way that you should be, which is, proving the success that you're having. So congratulations and all of that.
Yeah, and I'll say that, a founder driven company is materially different than,
Hmm.
just, a CEO that's brought in from another entity that's there to be a steward or a caretaker, right,
Right.
of that company, right? So, a founder driven company is, like I said, it's similar to like the Dell thing that I mentioned in Austin, that hopefully we have over here, right?
Hmm.
That's on the investor side, right? But on the management side, if you're a management team that's comprised of founders and early employees that are used to creating exponential value for their customer base, right? Then what's to say that they're going to trend differently from that? As opposed to someone that's just looking to squeeze, you know, more dollars off of, drive slight more efficiencies in the supply chain, drive slight more efficiencies because we're going to restructure headcount, like, yeah, and maybe they could bring a product or two to market, right? But, you know,
Mhm.
look for as much wild success that Apple's having, right? Compared to Apple, under Tim Cook now compared to Steve Jobs. I love Tim Cook, but I'm just saying, it's two vastly different companies, right?
Right.
One got into the damn music industry after 2 decades of just doing desktop computers, right?
Right. Right.
The other one is kind of doing the same stuff. Okay, yeah, the headphones I'm wearing, cool, but these are headphones, right? Product, and they're not like they're going to a new industry like music. Right? If you would have gotten the self-autonomous cars thing, then yeah, that's different. But that never materialized, and they ended up scrapping it.
Right. Right.
So I would say that you as a founder, you have a lot more leverage, and you have a lot more. Um, let's go back to what we were saying: the tools in the toolbox. Then I would think that a legacy player has, right? So be honest with yourself, assess product roadmap, see if this is really something that is going to lead to generating your revenue, and then use that agility to your advantage.
Mhm. Yeah. Well said. Well said. I've really enjoyed this discussion with you, Ricky, and I wish you all the success and all the luck in the company. And obviously, here as a nonprofit technology in the region, if there's anything that we can do to support you guys, please let us know, because I love just watching the growth and hearing about you from the Fuel team. So,
Awesome.
congratulations.
Well, if you have any talent, if you know anyone that's looking to get into tech, like I said, we have internship positions
There
open.
you go. Yeah, yeah, we'll definitely support you in that for sure. And I'm sure people listening
Cool.
will hear this too. So all of a sudden, you're going to get like an influx of resumes.
Yeah. We need that.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Ricky. I appreciate it. I know we'll stay connected, and thank you very much just for getting on and spending the time with me today.
All right, great. Thanks for having me, Nikki. Bye.
Great. Thanks. Bye.